Okay, so we have game 3 up here, and I see Quarry on the board. And recently I was looking at a game with Dan Brooks, very good Dominion player, and I saw some money strategy on the board. And Dan Brooks said, I see Quarry and plus buy. So there is Quarry and plus buy on the board. So I'm gonna try to build some kind of engine thing here with stables and nobles, villages. We also have courtyard for draw as well, so that should be okay to build here. So Quarry and plus buy is what he said, and he referred to some kind of engine type strategy when he made that comment. So I'm gonna open Caravan Guard and Quarry here, perhaps even looking for a second Quarry at some point later on in the game. Again, also watching a game with Mick Seanock and Dan Brooks, we observed that perhaps our whoever was playing the game could have made better use of quarries, or not just one quarry but more than one quarry, for example. So my opponent goes Courtyard and Miser. Very interesting open here, very interesting open. So he wants to get fat Misers, which is all well and good. So here, choice between stables and nobles. I go for the stables first, not the nobles, because I want to put a nomad camp into my deck soon, and then if I have the nobles and the nomad camp, they might collide a little bit. So let's just go with the stables to try to find the quarry with the plus buy. That's the theme of the thing so far, right? Quarry and plus buy. And luckily, this is lucky. I do find the quarry with the plus buy here, so it means I can get 2 action cards for cheap, 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 cheap. So it is going to be another stables, and this time I believe a mining village. I have intentions of picking up more plus buy. The more plus buy you could get, you could see already, just amplifies the effectiveness of quarry. So my opponent, he picks up on nobles here. He does have the mice, and he did manage to set aside a copper last turn. So we'll see how that goes for him. He's obviously going for a different type of strategy. I presume something with 2 or 3 misers, some villages, and some plus buy in the nomad camp. My thoughts? I think that's too slow. I think the stables, nobles thing, especially with the quarry and the plus buy, should be able to be a little bit faster than that. And it has to be a little bit faster if I want to win, right? Has to be. Another miser for my opponent there. Well, not there, but he has another miser anyway. He picked up a caravan guard last turn. So I do go after the nobles. I see my opponent going for the nobles, and I decide, well, I don't really want to lose the noble split, so I'll buy a nobles. I have the village in the deck now too, so hopefully I could line the village up with the nobles and use the nobles as +3 cards. Yeah, it's an expensive smithy, but it also has 2 points on it, which is something, right? Nobles is kind of like old school landmarks for Dominion. Anyways, so here I am going to put the second quarry into my deck. I think that's enough. I don't really need to make things any more cheap. The second quarry also helps with the stables draw. I have run into problems in the past with stables. I find 4 stables and an estate in my hand, and I can't do anything. So I need to make sure and grease the wheels of that engine very nicely to make sure that the stables draws all the time. So not at all worried about putting a second quarry, and it should make these action cards very, very cheap. I have 2 plus buys, and I'm thinking of putting in another plus buy into this deck, bringing it up to a total of 3 plus buys plus my default buy. So 4 buys should be decent, should be very good to build with here. And if I'm able to get 4 plus buys into play, it probably means I have enough money to buy whatever action cards I want. There's also a point to note about mining village and these plus buys. So with the plus buys, when you explode, or you can explode your mining villages and make better use of the money that you would get from the explosion, the 2 coins, right? So that's another reason for putting the plus buy into the deck, among other things, of course. So there goes the 3rd nomad camp for me here, and I'm going to pick up on nobles really just as a kind of denial thing for my opponent. It doesn't hurt the draw of the deck really. If I find 2 nobles, I could play 1 for actions and 1 to draw. Not the greatest thing in the world, but it still draws something. Anyways, my opponent is going ahead with his miser plan. I think he has 4 or 5 coppers down on his mat at this point. I do periodically check, so you'll see me go to the log and it'll change the what you see on the right hand side there. So now my turns start to become a little bit longer and fairly repetitive. It sort of tried to draw as much of the deck as you could with the stables and the nobles in it, and see how many plus buys I could get into play. I can't quite draw my entire deck yet, but hopefully soon I will be able to do so. I did kinda underestimate how much stables can draw. So I put too few stables into my deck and I had to rectify that later on into the game. So there I could have played that nobles to draw, but I didn't really see much point. It would have drawn me into a nomad camp, and I couldn't really play the nomad camp anyway. So this is another nice trick here with the nobles. I bought a gold first and then I put a nobles. I bought a noble, so I got the point of the aqueduct for myself. So this is what I'm talking about. I thought that my deck could handle the gold, but clearly I wasn't drawing everything there, so perhaps it was a bit too early for the gold. And I just realized that I told you all I have 3 nomad camps. I only have the 2 nomad camps. My apologies. So now I go back, I pick up a couple stables here for very cheap, and here comes the 3rd nomad camp finally. There's a small issue with buying the nomad camp, and that is that it goes on top of your deck, which could cause you to stall a little bit. So I was a little bit hesitant about when to buy the nomad camp. I was even thinking to take advantage of that ability to top deck itself and perhaps use that to pair the nomad camp with the quarry, especially early in the game. But all in all, I think it was just a little bit worse that it top decked itself. I didn't really like that feature of the nomad camp in this game because I didn't want to stall with, like, look how many treasures and estates I have in my deck. I can easily draw a nomad camp with 4 treasures and have that as my entire turn. I don't really want that at this point in the game. So here I finally start to go after the provinces. I buy another gold just to get the point of the aqueduct and a province, and I pick up our stables for 1 coin. Very cheap, very cheap, and it supplements the draw of the deck quite nicely. I'm still not able to draw anything. I'm not able to draw the entire deck yet, so again, perhaps that turn should have been spent building instead of going after points. But seeing my opponent's position, I felt like it was fairly safe to do so. I don't really want to give the miser strategy too much time to build up, so I felt like I should go after the provinces a bit more sooner rather than later. So a couple provinces here and a mining village. The reason for this mining village is to perhaps play all my nomad camps. Additionally, I can use my nobles for plus cards now instead of using them for plus actions. I really don't want to use them as $6 necropolis. What is the plural of necropolis? Anyway, again, fairly repetitive here, just trying to be a little bit sensible where possible. Because I can't quite draw the entire deck, so I don't want to trigger a nasty shuffle. I have been triggering some shuffles over the last couple of turns and leaving 2 or 3 cards on top of my deck. Here I don't do that because I feel like there's way too many junk cards in my discard pile. Not going to take that chance at all. Coming up with 14 here and 4 buys. Another province for me, stables, a mining village. And 2 stables, sorry, and a mining village there. So the province, I have a commanding lead over my opponent. He has just 2 nomad camps. His misers are quite fat now. I think they're 5 or 6 coins, but with just the 3 buys total for him, I feel very confident about my position here. I have just a commanding points lead. There I stall out, something I was worried about for the entire game, but my courtyard that I bought on the last turn does allow me to stick our stables back on top of my deck, which is nice. I can perhaps make use of it later. See, this is a scary hand, right? What if this copper had been an estate? Then what do you do here? You just cry, right? You just cry. Anyways, my opponent starts in on the provinces here, but I think he also purchased one of the action piles there, mining village or stables. and that leaves it very low for me. I actually have exactly 4 buys in my deck, and I just need to find the nomad camps to be able to empty both the stables and the mining villages. I'm not sure if I set up that 3-pile ending or if he did that for me. So here, this is by what I mean by playing a little bit intelligently, playing the mining village first to trigger the shuffle, then use the stables to discard coppers into a discard pile you will not have to see again. Anyways, this is a desperate search for the nomad camp. It turns out it's on the bottom of the deck, but I do manage to get there thanks to the courtyard. Very nicely done, courtyard. So that is how game 3 ends. Like I said, I thought the miser thing was too slow, and it turned out to be a bit too slow in the face of Quarry and plus buy. Thank you, Dan Brooks, for that insights into that game. Alright, so thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.